It's almost near the end of the month of October. Happy Halloween to all the celebrators out there. Not myself. I'm locked over here in my beautiful prison, but but it's time to be looking at some monthly statistics for November, what to essentially expect for the history of November, and also put a bit more nuanced context on top of that as well. Anyways, other than that, I want to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. Blah, 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 blah. Like and subscribe, herpity derp, and let's just jump right into it and start off right over here with the content of the day. So the monthly analysis, as you can see, I marked off all of the months of November, going back to the genesis of Bitcoin. I did omit one. I do want to be as transparent as possible with this. I omitted this one over here, November of 09, because as you can see at the top left-hand corner, there's like, I don't have any data to go off. It opened at 0, it closed at 0. So I don't really have much to be going off of right there. Anyways, other than that, I've recorded all of the previous Novembers, and well, there was some very interesting data with this. I want to first say that I got some very interesting comments about this about a week ago, because I made a mention that November is usually a pretty damn good month for Bitcoin laws, and I saw that there's like several comments where they're like, when has November ever been good? It's like, sir, it's been 3 Novembers ago where Bitcoin had a pretty big November. It's okay, man. It's okay. But we can go into the data right here. I'll waste no more time. And as you can see, out of 13 total Novembers, we have seen 8 positive Novembers, meaning that they closed higher than they opened. And for the average return of those winning Novembers, it has been about 78.75% gained. Now, I do want to say that there is one major outlier here. That would be the 4th November that Bitcoin did experience, and that was almost a 500% gainer, whereas all of the rest were in the double digits or less. So, just keeping that in mind, if we were to omit that that particular instance, then the average return for the winning side would be closer to 22.75%. So, just want to be a little bit careful with that one, because that one is like very far out there. On the other side, when November has been a losing month, well, it has lost an average of 17.25% almost. Now, I want to put some more context on that, which we're going to go over a little bit later. But first things first, let's just say that these stats play out kind of in their intended fashion, which we've actually seen a lot recently, which is very interesting. You don't necessarily fully expect that, but first off, depends where, of course, October does close. But let's just assume it closes somewhere around here at $34,000. Well, if it does that, then what would about, let me just make sure, about 22% or 23% on top of current price action look like? That would push Bitcoin all the way up to the low $40,000 territory, which, as we went over in the past few videos, there are a few of our mathematically based setups that do suggest upper 30s, like 39,000 to very low 40s, is certainly possible within the month of November. Of course, we want to see this monthly closure, but yeah, it's reasonable from a probabilistic standpoint. Anyways, on the other side, the average loss at about 17%. What would that look like if Bitcoin were to shave that off of, on top of current price action? That'd put Bitcoin all the way back down at about $28,000. Like I said, however, again, it really depends where this month obviously closes, October 1st, before we get into into those projections for November, and then we can have a bit of a guideline for that region. But here's the thing, like I said, I wanted to put some more nuance onto this one, which is actually a reference to a video that we put out quite some time ago. Actually, I guess it was like late September, and we went over this. So most people are aware that September is, generally speaking, a bad month for markets. Bitcoin, no exclusion there. But Bitcoin has seen some green Septembers. And when we've seen a green September, which there's only been 5 in Bitcoin's history, there's literally only been 5, so very, very few. The rest of Q4 has closed massively up. Most of Q4 has actually just been up only, meaning that October, November, and December were up. I believe it was 3 out of 5 of those, were just up only, and 2 of them did see a down month. Maybe it was like, during one of those at least. So that was interesting because what did we see this September? Well, we did see a green September, right? That was September right here. It closed, marginally green, pretty damn boring month, but important nonetheless. We've seen a pretty explosive October, coming after that. And so putting this within context, it would imply that November probably going to be more likely to be a green month yet again. And so maybe the average of these, of the winning side over here is going to be more appropriate to be looking at. We can go back to the September green analysis. It's just is essentially what I call it. And the average win return when September was green. And again, this, there are some pretty crazy numbers here, like 400%, 400%, 60%, 80%, just under 10%, right? Good variance within those. But the average win return was just under 200%. I think that would be kind of unlikely. I mean, that would mean that Bitcoin goes basically like a 200%, like a 3x from 27,000. Yeah, that would mean new all-time highs. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that's probably unlikely. But 40,000 may be more reasonable. So, just looking at those monthly stats, they have been, very relevant since we've been documenting them on this channel. And, well, I would just look at that as a high probability statement yet again. Again, completely depends on where October closes, but one thing to keep in the background or in the back of the mind, Q4 likely to close up. So far it's been pretty up. November has a slightly higher probability at 61%, I believe it was. Let me just double check. Yeah, 61.5% to close positively. But again, putting that within context of the September green, I'd say maybe that's probably a little bit higher, for all things considered. Anyways, now that we've gone through that, we can go back over here, just go over the general HPDR bands. You can see that Bitcoin's still dancing on top of that 80% of historic returns range high. And what does that essentially mean? Well, we can see that it continues to step up here, and I would be looking at this consolidation as still a bullish consolidation. I think that this can go on for some time more, however, at least into this coming week here, as I do want to see volatility cool off a little bit at least, and it's it's still like in the 78th percentile as of right now. But if there's going to be continuation, I'd suspect probably the latter half of this coming week or the week after that. Realistically, a lot of the time when Bitcoin gets a big breakout, which I would consider this a big breakout right here, the week after the breakout is a consolidation week. A lot of the time, and again, we're looking at an area here that was essentially consolidating for 6 months or more than 6 months, basically going back to the beginning of March, resolved over here in the end of October, right? So it's quite some time indeed. It's the first week of this breakout. Is that one going to be it? Is that going to be the end of the move? So it's probably unlikely. Personal opinion, probably unlikely. Again, we do want to see the weekly for spot price action obviously close above, 32,500, especially for the BULLISH if they are going to, maintain this nice major massive breakout. But yeah, I think assuming that Bitcoin spot closes anywhere close to where, or even a little bit below where CME closed, which was 33,955, so basically $34,000. That's probably going to be indicative of at least another try to the upside. I would guess. We can also see over here, just very, very briefly, weekly stochastic momentum continues to, continues to ride this, this regression that we had in coming off these last few lows. But just, following up on this, of course, there was that double dot on the DMI. We don't really see those too often, or on this chart at all. But if we go to a more long-running chart, we certainly do see them. And of course, that was one of the major things I was saying, hey, Bitcoin probably does to move to the upside right here. We can see that the stochastic oscillator is now, officially reclaimed the moving average and maintains its upside pressure as long as Bitcoin's above 27,600. There is one last thing to be aware of right here. There is this nice regression coming in from the last couple highs, the April highs, and then the July highs. Bitcoin's gonna have a chance to maybe break that on this next weekly closure. Anyways, I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. As always, I want to wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.